Formula One has always produced some unforgettable teammate rivalries, especially when both drivers are fighting for a world championship. What often begins as mutual respect can quickly turn into tension, frustration, and personal battles once the pressure of winning a title increases. On this episode of F1 Nation, Tom Clarkson is joined by former Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer and IndyCar race winner James Hinchcliffe to discuss some of the greatest teammate rivalries in Formula One history and explore why these partnerships eventually broke down. Before focusing on rivalries, the panel first reflects on the Miami Grand Prix. Jolyon Palmer says one of the biggest stories of the weekend was the performance of young Mercedes driver Kimi Antonelli, who delivered a very strong showing against George Russell. Palmer believes Antonelli proved he is capable of competing at the highest level much earlier than many expected. The group also discusses the upgrades brought by teams like Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull. While Ferrari may not have achieved the results they hoped for, the team still showed encouraging race pace throughout the weekend. Lewis Hamilton later admitted that Ferrari's simulator did not fully match what he experienced on track, leading to a conversation about how difficult it is for teams to perfectly recreate real Formula One conditions in a simulator. The main topic soon shifts toward teammate rivalries, beginning with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg at Mercedes. Tom Clarkson says their relationship truly changed in 2014 when Mercedes became the dominant team and both drivers realized they were fighting directly against each other for the championship. One major turning point came during qualifying in Monaco when Rosberg made a mistake that brought out yellow flags and prevented Hamilton from improving his lap time. Rosberg secured pole position, and from that moment the tension between them continued to grow. Jolyon Palmer explains that fighting for a championship changes everything because only one driver can become champion, and suddenly every small incident feels personal. He also points to the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2014 as another important moment because rumors began spreading that Rosberg was using aggressive engine settings during his battles with Hamilton. Palmer says trust disappears once drivers believe their teammate is pushing boundaries or searching for unfair advantages. James Hinchcliffe agrees and explains that these situations only become truly explosive when teammates are fighting at the very front of the grid. Similar disagreements happen throughout Formula One every season, but nobody pays attention when drivers are battling for 6th or 7th place. When the fight is for the World Championship, however, every decision becomes emotional and much more serious. The panel then discusses how teams attempt to manage these difficult situations. Toto Wolff later admitted he may not have handled the Hamilton-Rosberg rivalry perfectly, and Palmer believes teams sometimes create even more problems by trying too hard to keep everything equal between drivers. McLaren's management of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri is used as a modern example. During their championship challenge, McLaren constantly tried to balance fairness between both drivers, which often created difficult strategic decisions during races. Even so, the team managed to keep the relationship relatively stable compared to many famous rivalries from the past. The group agrees that personality is a huge factor in determining whether teammate battles become toxic. Some drivers remain calm under pressure, while others are willing to push every limit possible to gain an advantage. Nico Rosberg is described as incredibly determined and mentally relentless, constantly searching for ways to challenge Hamilton both on and off the track. Hinchcliffe says Rosberg pushed himself so hard during the 2016 season that winning the championship exhausted him completely, leading to his immediate retirement from Formula One. The conversation then moves to the famous Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso rivalry at McLaren in 2007. Hinchcliffe describes it as one of the most dramatic teammate battles Formula One has ever seen. Alonso arrived as a two-time world champion expecting to lead the team comfortably, but rookie Lewis Hamilton immediately matched his speed from the very first race. Alonso reportedly felt betrayed because he believed McLaren boss Ron Dennis favored Hamilton. The situation became even more chaotic during qualifying in Hungary when Alonso deliberately delayed Hamilton in the pit lane, preventing his teammate from completing a final lap. The season also included the massive Spygate scandal, which resulted in McLaren receiving a huge fine and being removed from the Constructors' Championship. Jolyon Palmer believes many legendary rivalries follow a similar pattern where an experienced driver suddenly faces a young superstar capable of matching or even surpassing them immediately. He mentions examples such as Vettel vs. Webber, Ricciardo vs. Vettel, and Leclerc vs. Vettel. Hinchcliffe adds that younger drivers often perform better than expected because they race without the same pressure carried by experienced drivers. Established stars are expected to win, while rookies are often given more freedom to learn and develop. The panel later discusses Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost at McLaren during the late 1980s. Although Palmer did not watch the rivalry live, he studied the statistics and was shocked by Senna's dominance in qualifying. Tom Clarkson explains that Prost understood he could not consistently match Senna's raw speed over one lap, so he focused more on race strategy and psychological tactics. Their rivalry eventually became deeply political and extremely personal, leading to famous collisions at Suzuka that remain some of the most controversial moments in Formula One history. Another major rivalry discussed is Sebastian Vettel versus Mark Webber at Red Bull. Palmer explains that Webber eventually felt like he was fighting both Vettel and the Red Bull team itself. Their relationship worsened after several incidents, including their crash in Turkey and the famous Multi-21 controversy in Malaysia when Vettel ignored team orders and overtook Webber for victory. One particularly painful moment for Webber came when Red Bull removed a new front wing from his car and gave it to Vettel instead. After winning the race, Webber sarcastically responded by saying, "Not bad for a number 2 driver." Throughout the discussion, the panel repeatedly returns to the idea that teams themselves often create many of these problems. Team orders, favoritism, unclear leadership, and broken agreements can quickly destroy trust between teammates. As the conversation ends, attention returns to Mercedes and the current pairing of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Palmer believes Russell now faces huge pressure because Antonelli is already showing signs of becoming a future superstar. However, the group also believes Antonelli's calm personality may help avoid some of the drama seen in past rivalries. Unlike previous situations at Red Bull or McLaren, Toto Wolff may now be far better prepared after everything he learned while managing Hamilton and Rosberg. To finish the episode, the hosts each choose their favorite teammate rivalry. Both Palmer and Hinchcliffe select Hamilton versus Rosberg because of its emotional intensity, the championship pressure, and the fascinating story of 2 childhood friends becoming fierce enemies. Tom Clarkson agrees, saying the rivalry had everything Formula One fans could want: speed, controversy, drama, and one unforgettable championship battle that pushed both drivers to their limits. The discussion also highlights how difficult it is for team principals to stay completely neutral once a championship fight begins inside their own garage. Every strategy decision, pit stop timing, or technical upgrade can easily be seen as favoritism by one driver or the other. Jolyon Palmer explains that even small details can create tension because drivers are constantly searching for signs that the team may prefer their teammate. This is why many rivalries slowly become more emotional over time instead of exploding immediately. A single controversial moment can completely change the relationship between 2 drivers who previously worked together peacefully. The panel believes Formula One rivalries are often shaped by personality as much as speed. Drivers like Fernando Alonso, Nico Rosberg, and Alain Prost were known for using psychological pressure as part of their approach. They understood that Formula One is not only about driving quickly but also about creating doubt and frustration inside the mind of their opponent. Palmer says some drivers know exactly how to use media interviews, small comments, or subtle mind games to increase pressure on the other side of the garage. Sometimes those tactics become just as important as performance on the racetrack itself. James Hinchcliffe says one of the most fascinating parts of teammate rivalries is watching how drivers react once trust disappears. At the beginning of a season, teammates may race hard but still respect each other. However, once one driver feels betrayed, the atmosphere changes completely. Drivers stop sharing information openly, become suspicious of team decisions, and start treating their teammate like a true enemy rather than a partner. That emotional shift is usually the moment when rivalries become unforgettable for fans. The conversation also explores how younger drivers entering top teams often create immediate pressure for established stars. Palmer points out that Formula One history repeatedly shows experienced drivers struggling once a highly talented rookie arrives. Young drivers enter Formula One with confidence, energy, and less fear because they are still building their reputation. Meanwhile, the experienced teammate already carries expectations from the media, the team, and the fans. That pressure can slowly become overwhelming if the younger driver begins outperforming them. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli are viewed as the newest example of this type of situation. Russell currently has the experience advantage, but Antonelli's early performances suggest he could become a future championship contender very quickly. The panel agrees that if Mercedes continues to fight near the front, the relationship between the two drivers could become one of the biggest stories in Formula One over the next few seasons. However, Antonelli's calm personality may help avoid some of the explosive moments seen in previous rivalries.